Hey guys, Omerko here, self-taught web developer. I am back again with another video for my APIs with Angular series. For today's video, we will explore Pokemon API called PokeAPI, and we will create our own Pokedex, in other words, Pokemon Encyclopedia. All links visited through this video you will have in a description of this video. And now, before we start with our Angular application, let's first see what is PokeAPI, how could we use it, what could we do with it, and also let's see what application we will create today. So this is the application that we will create today. It's called Pokedex. As you can see, we have a grid of our Pokemons, and the data for those we are getting from PokeAPI. At the bottom, if I would scroll down, we also have the Pagination here. Pagination is fully integrated, which will be kind of bonus for this video. So for example, if I jump to page 105, it will pull the Pokemons from that page. Previous page, there it is. So Pokemons will be pulled from PokeAPI dynamically. Regarding PokeAPI, this API is not just for our fun here and playing around with it. Based on their website, you can see that there is more than 60 million API calls each month. And that amount of calls is made only for good and useful APIs. PokeAPI is used to create applications, kind of Pokedex applications, but also it is very used to create games through web, mobile, and even desktop development. Games could vary from card games to games with complex graphic. If we would go to the documentation of the PokeAPI, on the side you will see all the types of data that we could pull. So for example, if I go to Pokemon data, we will see the calls for the Pokemon data with response, and also we will see much more data about the Pokemons, for example their genders or stats that they could have, Pokemons themselves, natures, egg groups which they belong, and much more. Now that we talked a bit about API and the application that we will create, let's generate our project. To generate my project, I first must have the Angular installed on my machine, so make sure to do that. For that, you can simply go to Angular official website and run the installation from there. As I already have Angular installed on my machine, I could just in my console run ng-new and pass the app names, for example, Pokedex App. If I hit enter, it will ask me a couple of questions now. This is the Angular CLI that would ask me a couple of questions. For example, would I like to add Angular routing? I don't really wish to have Angular routing for this project. And also the type of style sheet that I wish to have, which format. I will go with CSS. Angular will after that start installing packages that are required for the application, so we will kind of wait a bit and basically wait for the app to install itself. Once everything is finished, I will first run clear to clear my terminal. We can route ourselves in a project with cd Pokedex App, and inside we could run ng-serve --open. This will automatically run our project and open it on our preferred browser. With this, we can see simple content from Angular inside of our project. Let's quickly go into the Angular app.component.html and remove this sample code from it. So in my Pokedex app, I will go into the route myself into the app, and app.component.html. This is the main component from my Angular application. I will remove the full content of it and save the file. Now that we have our empty project, let's generate our header. To have that kind of a title at the top of our page. To create my header, I will in my console run ng, g for generate, c for component, and run header, which will be the name of the component. I could also pass skip tests flag here. These skip tests won't create any test files for me for this header component. So enter now, and after few seconds my header component will be generated with Angular CLI. So now that I have my header component generated and also my empty app.component.html, I will go into that file, and inside I will pass app header like this. So make sure to save this and let's just jump into the browser. Now, if we visit our project, we can see that the header works text, which is coming from our header component that we just generated. So we linked our header inside of our app main component. Let's create content now for our header. So first of all, I must go into the header folder that was just generated with Angular CLI, go into the header component HTML, and here we can see that header works text from where it is coming from. So the content, the markup for my header, I will first put the comment of header, and the markup will be header HTML5 tag, and inside there will be just h1 with Pokedex App. That text is okay. Also, I will type here, I will put here also my end of header comment. So in my browser I already see things that I don't really like, so I will go in my main styles.css to remove paddings and margins that we have on elements, and also set font family for whole application. So the style.css is main style file of the Angular application, and we could find it in an index.html level. So here we can, as you can see, the comment by Angular says you can add global styles to this file, so we will do just that. So here I will put the base comment and put my star, which will target all elements. I will put padding to all elements to 0 and margin to all elements also to 0. And also I will target body here. Body itself will just change font family, for example to Franklin Gothic Medium. Let's use that one. So now that we have this in place, let's jump into header .component.css file, and here let's style our header a bit. So I will put first comment of header, and I will target my header HTML5 element that I have. So for my header now, I will put padding to 20 pixel at top and bottom and 0 pixel left and right. Then also I will put text align my h1 that I have there to be in center, and also I could put background color, for example, to sea green. Then I will target my header and h1 inside. For my text, I wish text transform to be uppercase. Then I also wish the color of my text to be white, and the letter spacing could be, for example, 3 pixels. So that's it. So now if we visit our browser on our local host, we could see that header. We have that green background color, that sea green. We have the h1, which the letters are uppercased and it is in center. There is a padding to top and bottom, which is good, and we are ready to continue with our application. Now here I will stop with UI for now. Let's focus on our functionality. Well, on API to get our data from API. For that we will use service, as services are used to share data through our application. So let's create our data service. So to create that, I will run ng generate s for service, and I wish to generate my service in services folder /data. Data is the name of the service. I will also pass skip tests here, so it won't generate any tests files for these services, for this data service. Now we could route ourselves into source app, and we could see this service. Well, this should be services, so let me quickly rename this to services, and inside we have our data.service.TypeScript file. This service will be used to communicate with our API. As we will use this service to communicate with API, we should prepare our service to work with HTTP calls. To be able to run HTTP calls in our application, we must go into app.module.ts, and here we should import HTTP client module. This won't be automatically imported, so I will type here import HTTP client module from, and I will go into Angular /common and at the end /HTTP, and that is it. And now, as we wish to have HTTP also in data service, here what we could do is import our HTTP client from, same thing, Angular /common /HTTP. And now to inject this HTTP client in our service here in constructor, I will use private and I will name it just HTTP, and I will set the type of it to be HTTP client, and that is it. We have our HTTP client ready to be used. With this now we can create our first request. I will create a get Pokemons request here. So here I will put get Pokemons comment, and let's create a method called get Pokemons. So this method will be used to get Pokemons from API. For this part, let's go first in API and see how this works. So on Pokemon API, we can see that here, if I would delete this Pokemon /Ditto and pass here, this is the request for the API, we could get /Pokemon and put, for example, the limit of 10. If I submit this, here down we will have a result, a response from the API, and what we could see is in results we have 10 results of 10 Pokemons. So what I could do is copy this fully from here and use it as my URL to make the request from my side. So let's copy first this part. So here now where I have get Pokemons method, I could from here return, and I wish to return this .http which we just imported, that get method of it, and there is get method that could be made with HTTP client in Angular, and I wish to pass here backticks. I will copy this HTTPS Pokemon API URL, and here I will pass Pokemon text, and I will just put the limit here. So limit, I will set it initially to be equal to 10, so it will pull just 10 Pokemons. We cannot test this properly right now, as we need a kind of component of Pokemon list to where we will call this get Pokemons method, so let's generate that one. So now that we have our service ready to get Pokemons, we will need some kind of component from where we will make that request and also render our Pokemons. So here I will generate component. So ng generate component, and it will be called Pokemon list. Let's also pass skip tests flag for this component. So I have my Pokemon list component here. Let me first go into my app.component, and just below my header I will put here app Pokemon list component to kind of inject it so we could see it on a screen. So if I wish to work with my Pokemon list component, if I wish to get the data inside of here, I should first inject my service here. So to do that, inside of my constructor, I will use a private data service, which will be the type of data service, and it could be automatically imported in my Visual Studio Code. Now that we have our service injected in our Pokemon list component, let's run our Pokemon get Pokemons method from here. So in my ng-on init, I will use this .data service that we just injected. I will use the method called get Pokemons from it that we have. So to this method, as we are returning from HTTP client, it is an observable, so we could subscribe to it and we will get response data. This response could be the type of any, and we will just console.log response that we get. So let's go in our application and see this. Now in my browser, if I inspect my element here and I go into the console, I could see the object here. If I would refresh the screen, we will see the result from the Pokemon API. So if I open it up, we could see the count. Count is the value of all Pokemons, how much there is of those. Next is a next method that we could call, basically the API now with two values for offset equal to 10 and the limit equal to 10, which will skip first 10 kind of values, 10 Pokemons that we have, and just give us the next 10 Pokemons from their API. Previous value there is no any, and results are Pokemons. There is Bulbasaur name with the URL to get the data for him. There is Charmander, Charizard, so everything is there. There are just their names and URLs. So basically, as I don't have much data at this point, just the name and URL of the Pokemon, we cannot do much with this. So we will, for each Pokemon that we have, run HTTP call to get more data out of it. This is not smart to do on a live application, but this is also a reason why we set a limit of our Pokemons in our request just to 10, as I don't really wish to make more calls to the API without much of a reason, as this is just the tutorial. So now I could go back to my data service, and here what I could do is I will create get more Pokemons data. So here I will create the method of get more data, and like this. And how could I do this? To this method I will pass the name of the Pokemon. So I should pass the name here, which will be the type of string, and by that name I could contact Pokemon API and get the data back. So here what I could do now is return this.http.get, and here we could pass the request. The request will be same like this with Pokemon at the end here, but after that I will put the slash and put the ECMAScript placeholder here, and I will just pass the name that I will get dynamically from my component. So let's run this also from the component. In my component Pokemon list component, here where I have my data results, so here as I need to kind of make the request for each of my Pokemons, I will put first the response like this, that results that we have, so those would be all Pokemons, and that for each method. So for each result that we have, I will run this data service that get more data method that we just created, and to that I will pass result that name that we have on each of our Pokemons. So for this one I could also subscribe here. So subscribe, and I will get response back, which is type of any, and we can do something with this response here. So first of all, let me close this. So basically I wish to have also Pokemons an array here, which will be the type of any, and it will be initially empty array. So here now, where I get each response, each Pokemon back, I will just use this Pokemons push, and I will push response back. So for each Pokemon that we have, we will get the data from it, from the get more data, and we will push the Pokemon back. Also, there is a naming conventions here, so I will, instead of response, I will use a unique response here, so kind of for each Pokemon, and that is it. Now I could also console.log this Pokemons, and we could check those on our browser. So in my console now, we are getting kind of, well, loop. We are looping and we will log for each time, but at the end we will have 10 Pokemon. So if I open up the first one, which is the name is Caterpie, and we have all this data now. We could see the types of the Caterpie, which is just one type. We could see the species, the sprites, the moves that Caterpie have. We could also see the stats, which are kind of base stat, effort. There are also state, this base stat is HP stat, this base stat is an attack stat, this is its defense, and much more data that Pokemon API could offer to us. Now I wish to create this kind of markup for my Pokemon list, and I will use a CSS grid to set up my layout here. So first of all, let's create the markup for the grid itself. I will put Pokemon grid comment here, and I will create the Pokemon grid section with that class. Let's also put the end of Pokemon grid. We are creating the markup, and in the end we will combine all of this data and we will put it visible in our markup. So for now I will use a box, so kind of class of box. Let me put just one 2, 3, 4. Let's change the numbers also. 2, 3, 4. I first wish to create the markup, so I will show you how to create the simple 4-column markup with the CSS grid. So basically this is the markup for our CSS grid. I will jump into Pokemon list, CSS part here, and I will put the Pokemon grid comment. Let me target now grid, Pokemon grid section, and for it I wish to display this as a grid. As I mentioned, we will use CSS grid here. I wish to put the grid gap to be 16 pixel, which will kind of put 16 pixel spacing in between those sections. Then I wish to have padding 20 pixel from all sides, and I will use grid template columns. So I wish to repeat my columns to auto fit, and they will auto fit by min max, and basically the minimum width of those will be 23%, and 1 FR. As I have spacing around and much more, I won't use 25%. 25% would be exact value for 4 columns, so kind of 100% divided by 4 would be 25. Instead I will use 23 here, as I will have also a little bit spacing around those. So now let's style each of those boxes that we have. So Pokemon grid, and each box itself will be, the width of it will be 100%. So we're basically full column here that we created. The height of each box, I will put that to be statically 300 pixel, and let's also add a bit of box shadow, kind of 1 pixel, 2 pixel, 5 pixel. I will use RGBA color here, so I will use 0, 0, 0 for black, and I will pass 0.3 for opacity here. So let's check this on our side. So this is how it will look. I will close this up. You can see that we have 4 columns here, and now we will create the data for our Pokemons here, put the data inside of these boxes. We will have 4 those in lines, and as we use CSS grid to auto fit those will be kind of next down below the next line. We go just down below automatically. Let's now show data in our boxes. So in my HTML here now, where I have my boxes, I could remove these 3 boxes for now, as those won't be needed. Those were just needed for the markup itself. So I wish to loop through my box here. So I wish to kind of loop through my Pokemons, and for each of those Pokemons I will create the new box here. So for that I will use directive ng4, and I will use let Pokemon of Pokemons. So as long as we have Pokemons here, for each of those we could do something. So first of all, what I wish to do is to put the image here. So the alt name for the image will be Pokemon, and the source of the image, well, let's go in data to check how could we get the Pokemon images. So if I go back to browser and I inspect, go to console quickly, jump into here, let's open up the first Caterpie. Let's go to sprites here, and here in sprites we could see different images. So we could basically get this front default image, which is the default image of front side of the Pokemon, and we will show that image. So now in my code I could bind my source to Pokemon dot sprites and front default, which will be the URL of the Pokemon itself. Then, after the image itself, I wish to kind of have the title of Pokemon. I will put the h3 of that. I will use here, I will bind here basically my Pokemon, that name that we have. Then, let's also put some values here, kind of the type of Pokemon, for example. So to get the type of Pokemon, let me close these sprites. We can go to types, then 0, and there will be the type of a Pokemon. This Caterpie is a bug Pokemon. So here, to bind that, I will use, for example, in my paragraph, bold text, and I will set type to be, and here, after my bold text, I could put, for example, I don't really need spacing here now. So I will put my Pokemon dot types and the first value, which is 0, dot type and the name of the type, which we just saw. Let's copy this now, and here let's put, for example, height of the Pokemon. So let's see how could we get the height of the Pokemon. To get the height, well, on the same level where we have our name, we have the height in inches, so this will be 3 inches, probably it is in inches, so let's put just the height. So now here, Pokemon, that height to bind that. Let's copy once more this paragraph, and let me put height properly here, and let's here use health, for example. We will render the health of our Pokemon, the value of the health. So I will close our types here, and I will have stats, and the first stat is the well, you can see that name is HP, so the name is health itself, so the health value would be base stat here, 45. So to put the base stat here, I will go into Pokemon that stats, then 0, which is the value of the health, and I will use base stat here. So let me put just one more, which could be attack power, for example, power, and that would be stats, then 1, and base stat, basically the attack power. So this is obviously working. If I close this now, we can see that we have the images for each of our Pokemons here. There are names, there are type, there are health, height, there are also attack power for each of those. Let me go into the CSS and fix this a bit. So in my Pokemon list CSS, what we could do inside of this box, we could also display the box itself as a grid. So now we could also text align those, the name of Pokemons, etc. We could align it to center, and that is good. Now also we could target the image itself, so image, and the image could have the max width to be 100 pixels. I will display the image as block, so I could use a margin to 0 auto to kind of put the image itself in a center. And this is it. We have our Pokedex here. There is all data that we need, literally. At this point we are finished, but I will show you one more thing that we could implement here. Well, we could do much more, but I will show you kind of pagination as a bonus for this video. But yeah, we already have everything needed. We could change the limit from 10 to 12, so kind of these are we have all of our segments, columns here visible. So yeah, as I mentioned, at this point we could stop our localhost from running, and I will use Pagination Angular module here. The module is called ngx Pagination, so we need to install that. So npm install ngx Pagination -- save. So this will install the pagination in our project. We would import it in the application and we could work with it. So as soon this is installed, we will run ng-serve to serve our project on our local host. So we can see that our project is still up and running, everything is okay. So as we installed the pagination module, we should import it in our app.module.ts. So I will close all of my files here and I will go in my main app module file, and here now in imports I could pass ngx pagination module. So to import this, I should here at the top at the modules part import ngx pagination module from ngx pagination, and that is it. So now that we have this, let's go in our Pokemon list component and implement the pagination here. So first of all, in my Pokemon list TypeScript file, I wish to have page value. So basically to get the current page which is active. Obviously I'm thinking of the page of the pagination. Also, I have the value for total Pokemons, which will be the type of number. That is it. So how to get these total Pokemons? As you remember here, in my get Pokemons, I have basically the count, which is the total number of Pokemon. So I will set this that total Pokemons equal to response that count, and that is it. So I will make a little bit of spacing so we could see that we are looping through our Pokemons down here. So now that we have everything ready for, well, the values for our pagination, we could implement our pagination here in our markup. So here, let me put the class down, ng4 down, so it could be more readable. So to use the pagination model, here we need to pass the pipe like this. I will use a paginate pipe, and I will set the value for its object. There is the paginate itself is the object which will allow us to pass a couple of values. So first of all, I could pass items per page. This is the number that we are getting, and as our limit is 10, we should also pass here 10. Then we should pass current page, which will be the current page of the pagination, and we will set that to be value of page which we just created, which is initially 1. So the first page. And we could also pass total items. Total items well, are the values of total Pokemons, I think so. So yeah, total Pokemons that we have. And that is it. Now we have the pagination implemented with our for loop here, but still we cannot see it on a screen. So here I will use pagination controls. That is it. So now on my side, if I scroll down a bit, I have my controls here, right? Well, the functionality is not here yet, but I have controls fully visible on my side. So let's put those a bit in center with our CSS. So I will go into Pokemon list, and I will just target my pagination controls, which is the HTML element which we could see, and I will just put text align center. That should do the work. So if I would scroll now down, yes, it is in center, so this is working nice, but the functionality is not here yet. So let's jump into pagination functionality. As we will focus on pagination functionality now, we must send request with our limit to get 10 Pokemons. So we are doing that in our service. Services, data service, and this is it, get 10 Pokemons. But also we could send the offset value, which is number of how many Pokemons to skip and then to pull those 10 that we will need, and we will use that here. So what I could do here is in my get Pokemons I could send the limit as a number and offset as a number. So I will set this value dynamically. So here now where I'm sending the limit, I will delete it and put the placeholder of my limit to be just equal to a limit. So here I should put the limit like this, equal to my limit from here. And also I will pass the end sign here, put the offset equal to my placeholder of offset. And that is it. So now I should pass these two values, dynamic values. So in my Pokemon list, yeah, sorry, I have this get Pokemons, which is now have that red line down below. As you can see, it is expecting 2 arguments, but has none. So here what I should pass, I will pass the 10 value. This 10 is the limit itself. And now I should also pass the offset value. So the offset value will be equal to the page plus 0 at the end. So this dot page plus 0 at the end. So how is it equal to this? For example, if we are visiting second page, in our number of indexes, that would be 3, as we are counting from 0. So 0, 1, 2, which is equal to 3 immediately. So as we are visiting the page number 3, we will pass the page itself and put the 0 at the end. So if we are visiting third page, we will pass the page itself. So 3 plus 0 will be 30. We will skip those 30 numbers and get the 10 numbers after that, which will be from 30 to 40. This is how it will work. Also, I won't just pass here value as this. I will cut this out and I will make the get Pokemons method here also. So get Pokemons comment, and I will make get Pokemons method, and I will just paste this here. The reason why we would have the method now, I should now on ng unit run this get Pokemons. So we will still run this method on NGInit, but we should also be able to run this method on Pagination now. So to run this method on Pagination, I should go in Pokemon list, and here where I have Pagination controls, I could pass few values here. So Pagination controls will accept page change event. This will occur every time we change the page. On that, I wish my page value that I have, which is dynamic currently, to set to be equal of event. Event will be the value, kind of a number of the page. If we are clicking on the page number 5, then our page will be equal to number 5. And after that, I wish also to put my Pokemons back to 0. So kind of to empty array. So I will reset my Pokemons always. I won't have, if I would check a couple of pages, I would get at that point 3-4 times my 10 Pokemon. So I would have 30 or 40 Pokemons. So no, I would restart my Pokemon so I could always have just 10 Pokemons visible on a screen. And in the end, I will run my get Pokemons method. So get Pokemons method here will be run with the dynamic data, with limit itself set, and also the page that is clicked. So let's test this out fully. If I refresh my page here, what I could see, I'm pulling my 10 Pokemons first. I have my pagination at the bottom, which will have 105 pages. These 105 pages are basically equal to the count that we have. So the count that we have of our Pokemons is 1050. And if we would divide those by the limit of Pokemons, 10, we will basically get 105. That's why we have 105 pages here. Also, we will see few visible pages. I could go to page 2, for example. At that point, our Pokemons will change. So it will send the offset of 10. It will basically reset the offset, so it will jump one number and pull the second 10 Pokemons that we have. So let's go to last page here. So we will see different Pokemons totally here, right? I could go to 102 page. There it is. Also, what I could do is go to a next page and also go to previous page. So this is fully working. So that would be all for this video. If you like this application, read more through PokeAPI and try to integrate even more data. You could integrate even filtering here, kind of searching for specific Pokemon. You could even put a button for each Pokemon, and once you click on that button, it can pop up a model with all data regarding that Pokemon, for example. And you could do much more with this API. Feel free and play around with it. If you like what you saw, please click like and subscribe, as I'm posting new content weekly. Thank you and see you in the next video.